Hi and hello watch fans, and welcome to another edition of the Real Time Show with me, your friendly neighborhood jeweler, Alamba Joseph. Today, one of the most humble, friendly CEOs in the watch business. Welcome to the studio, Michel Nydegger.
Oh my God, what an introduction. Thank you for having me. For the record, I only pretend to be humble. I'm actually very arrogant. So, just putting that out there.
I said friendly and funny as well. Michel, you've been running the show at Greubel and Forsey for a year plus right now. I had the honor to meet you almost incognito once when I came to a press meeting. And I've said this on air before that I was blown away. I've never met somebody on the press and marketing side of things in the watch industry that knew so much and was so passionate. So it doesn't surprise me a little bit that you are now running the show there. So last time we had you on the show, Michel, was during Geneva Watch Days, September last year.
That's right.
I just want to touch upon very quickly how has been the end of 25 and the beginning of 26 for Greubel and Forsey up until now.
It's been super exciting, actually. And it's getting more and more exciting by the day. We can really, I guess, especially now, we can feel how different it is to work as a completely independent brand. And, even when we are thinking about hiring some new additions to our staff, which we kind of desperately need, if we put out a job description today, 3 months from now, it will be completely different than it is today. So we're very excited. We've been busier than usual, I would say, and we're already looking forward to 2027, 2028. So we're having a fantastic time.
Will we encounter you at Geneva Watch Days 26 coming September?
Of course, yeah. We'll be at the Beau Rivage. For Watches and Wonders, we usually do La Réserve because it's closer to Palexpo. But for Geneva Watch Days, we'll be right in the center.
Amazing. So I wanted to speak to you actually before Geneva Watch Days because most likely we will sit down there as well. But I got very excited when in April you guys announced the 2 final editions of the Balancier Convex S Quadrant.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, you launched a black ceramic in 5N red gold plus a white ceramic one.
Correct.
Marking the end of the caliber, which you've developed over 5 years. So when did you decide to close the chapter? Was ceramic always the material you wanted to end on? Or how did you land on that decision?
So I guess for us, we had, when we launched the piece in 2021, we had said that we're going to build it for 5 years and 5 years only. So it was important for us to actually, stand by what we said back then. And we figured, it did deserve a special edition to close this chapter. And we had never done either white or black ceramic before, and we figured that this caliber would be perfectly suited for something like this. And we also wanted to have a nice challenge for us as well, and to have something which is surprising and a little bit different from what we had been doing in the past. So in closing the caliber, that's also for us a nice motivation to move on to other projects. So now moving forward, we're looking at 4 entirely new movements between end of 26 and then going into 2027. And that's kind of the approach. So the S2, we closed the movement there, the Tourbillon 24-second architecture as well. And so in closing, certain calibers, it gives us time to focus on new ones, which has always been, what Robert and Stephen, our founders, really enjoyed the most. And now we're 35 calibers in so far, which is, a pretty insane amount. But that's really what we're most passionate about and where we want to put most of our focus and energy.
And it's a rather exclusive end to a beautiful chapter because I believe it's twice 11.
Yeah, exactly.
So why 11? Does it have any significance for
it's a kind of internal tradition where, Robert is one person, Stephen is one, and then you put the two together and you get 11. And so our limitations are usually multiples of 11. So 22, 33, something like that.
And Today we have a huge palette of ceramic colors. Why did you opt for black and white? Is yin yang an inspiration? Did
Well,
you
we didn't
think of
think
the...
of that. We should have, now that you mentioned it. No, we're not really used to, or, we're not known for being super experimental in terms of case materials. And we usually have a very traditional approach to watchmaking. So it's 500 gold, platinum, a lot of titanium. And it's not something which is part of our expertise per se to offer very funky colors, because we want our timepieces to be kind of relevant in the future just as much as they are now. And with black and white, I think that's as elegant and as pure as we could have gone, and so we did.
Did you bundle them? I assume there's some collectors that want both. Did you bundle the limited edition numbers?
We presented them at the same time, but actually, no, I don't think that someone wanted both, if I remember correctly. It was really either or. So some were really crazy about the white ceramic, but not at all the black. But which was kind of the idea, to have an interesting offering for that as well.
Economically, it's a huge investment to make a caliber.
Sure.
A 5-year return on investment is not that long in the watch business. And you didn't make your life easy, because you've started off at 43.5 millimeters in 21.
Yeah.
And then 2 years down the line, you shrink it. What was the reasoning behind that? And how was that received by collectors?
So in terms of offering two different sizes, it was the first time that we experimented a little bit on that. Now, in hindsight, moving forward, it will be much better for us to offer, a smaller size from the beginning, because, in building movements, there's really no line to be drawn between the movement and the case. So it was quite challenging to slim it down substantially, but the feedback was very positive, and we saw that in our offering. That's one of the last sort of missing elements that we haven't explored, I guess, to its full potential in the past. So now, a few weeks ago, we came out with the Balancé QM, which is a 39.6 millimeter. And when I mentioned the 4 calibers to be rolled out from end of 26 into 27, so 3 of them are all below 40 mm. So it's something which, for us, the interest for us is really to preserve that 3-dimensional movement architecture and that depth that we're known for, but to do it in a smaller diameter. So that's really the challenge that we set ourselves. And it's not that we want to do only small pieces, of course, but we figured, it would be nice to have a strong offering as well in smaller diameters. And so the S2, to reply to your question, that was the first time that we kind of ventured into seeing, what the response would be. And I think everyone was very pleased that we did. And so it's something that we want to continue to work on.
Besides aesthetics and literally dimensions, the Balancé Convex S2 was a distilled expression of the brand's values, but also a relative entry point to the brand for collectors. Mm-hmm. How will you progress from here, from that perspective, entry point wise, to the brand in the roadmap ahead?
Sure. I guess in the way that we work when we start a new project, we don't necessarily define, price segment or quantity or markets. It's basically, trying to solve a problem in watchmaking, or try to learn something, or try to explore different territories. And then the retail price is a consequence of our development cost. So, for Grand Sonnery, which took us 11 years to develop, it was not, we want to have a Grand Sonnery at this price point. It was just a natural consequence. And it's kind of like that for most of everything that we do. That said, we do want to offer an interesting range, with an entry level today being at 175, which is as low as we've been able to come until now, and then of course up to $1,250,000 for the Grand Sonnery. So we do have a project that we're hoping to to complete. We're not quite sure yet, but maybe for 2027, we might be looking at an entry level at 120, which for us would be very new, very interesting. But then what we're seeing is that the number of pieces we could do per year has to be quite low, because it's very challenging for us to make no compromises on quality and to still be able to offer something. An entry level like that is quite difficult. So we'll see, but it's something that we're working on hard, and we hope we can, we hope it works out.
We spoke about the time it takes to develop a caliber. Brands need to bring back their initial investment. So the movement, the GF09XV, with 301 components, of which 68 escapement platform with a 30 degrees inclined balance wheel system, driven by 2 fast rotating coaxial barrels, and then completing a rotation in 3.2 hours is, understatement, new. Not done before, which a lot of stuff that you do is new.
Sure. Yeah.
Retiring sounds a pity, but I always see the glass half full. What technical lessons did you, as a group of magnificent engineers or watchmakers, draw from this carrying forward into your future work?
So maybe to answer a question that you haven't asked, in terms of return on investment, honestly, it's not really something that we care about that much. And I would say there's been quite a few more examples which are much more extreme. What comes to mind is the double balancier EWT, which was the very first sort of iteration of the double balancier system, of which we've made a total of 6 pieces. So that, when you talk about return on investment for something like this, that's on a completely different level as well. I would say the art pieces are similar in that way. So I would say the S2 was actually fairly reasonable, and we were able to produce for 5 years. So that's, again, there's more extreme examples than this. In terms of the lessons that we've learned, it's that our in-house balance wheel, the 12.6 millimeter balance wheel inclined, has great performance. So that's something that we want to maybe explore in a different way in the future. It's not something that we had done in the past necessarily, but we can say that in terms of the inclination, it really helps quite a lot. What we've learned also is, with this movement specifically, I would say it's maybe a little bit purer and cleaner than some others. So we kind of focus on the essentials of watchmaking, if you will, and that's also something that we like to explore further. And then it was the nightmare of making a ceramic case, where we said, if we should ever do that again, maybe we need a bit of a head start, because with that case geometry, it was a magnificent challenge. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely not something that we're going to reproduce in that way in the future. So when we say we discontinue movement, we're not looking to have a similar movement with 2 or 3 changes in the future. We really want to, start from scratch for the next one.
I remember vividly seeing the first Greubel Forsey timepieces. As a kid, I would go with my dad to Basel World. We would run through hole 1, cross the bridge on the first floor to hole 5. I believe it was 5 or 2, 5, 2. And then there was the AHCI. And then Greubel Forsey started there. And then to the right, there was a little stand booth with the glass and the cut out case for the balance wheel. That was a lightning struck moment for me as a kid. I had that again because of you guys. And that, I believe, by then was SIHH, Today Watches and Wonders, with the handmade.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I spent literally maybe an hour that I didn't have in my calendar running around as a retailer at the Time Aeon Foundation.
Sure, yeah.
And you literally put the watchmakers there at a bench at the fair.
I remember.
And I still even born and raised into this industry, I still enjoy that the most whenever I do a manufacturing visit. This is the intro for me to speak about how much is handmade in everything you guys do, not just only the handmade collection or timepieces. So all the components are to a certain degree hand finished, even those that are hardly visited. You frost a lot, which is a signature Greubel Forsey technique. You polish titanium bridges, which is extremely difficult titanium to polish. The beveling, countersinks, even the gold plate is engraved with a limited edition number, where we often see an 11th. How many hands are physically working on each of these watches? And roughly how long, if you need to stick in total number of hours on average to your watches, is made by hand?
So talking about the handmade, so today we have the handmade 1 and the handmade 2. So those are the first 2 movements that we offer with that name. And we want it to be quite clear from the beginning what our definition of handmade actually is. Because, you know, if something is assembled by hand by a watchmaker, you could call it handmade, but that was not our definition. So across the collection, of course, everything is assembled by hand by one single watchmaker. Every surface of every component of every timepiece will be hand finished. But with the handmade, the big difference is that the components themselves, they're actually made with traditional machines and no numeric control whatsoever. So even there, we wanted to be quite clear that we didn't machine the sapphire crystal by hand. In the handmade 1, we weren't able to do the jewels by hand yet. In handmade 2, we saw we were able to add to our expertise in shaping the large jewel for the power reserve, and then also the case gaskets for power, for water resistance. That's also something that we chose to do by hand, even though, you know, it would not have been the most difficult part, but there was no added value in us doing this by hand. And everything else is done by hand using traditional machines. And the big difference also between, you know, in theory, everyone can make a handmade watch with the right machines. But in terms of the tolerances, so we're within microns. So it's basically the same tolerances as what we use for every other Greubel Forsey timepiece. So it was important that the quality was not lesser than you would find anywhere else. And in order to do that, the time that it takes to make a handmade 1 is 6,000 hours. If you add everyone's hours together. So there's like 8 people in the handmade workshop and then some of our best hand finishers. So it's always going to be a team effort. So 6,000 for the handmade 1 and just below 6,000 for the handmade 2. So we thought we were going to be a little bit more, you know, efficient, but we saw that we weren't going to be. And so this is how we work today.
Amazing. I want to briefly take an intermezzo and jump to the mechanical nano that you've shown us at Geneva Watch Days. So you had that on your wrist. I had time to play around with it. The nano foudroyante. You guys called that the 10th fundamental invention, pushing it to 37.9 mil. I believe only 22 in white gold.
Correct, yeah.
Maybe just a quick masterclass for our dear listeners that are not that familiar with the complication of a foudroyante. Could you just school us a bit there? Why it's a nano?
Sure.
Because you've shrunk that to, I believe, just below 11 millimeters as well, which is very slim.
Sure. So for us, the reason we call it a fundamental invention to start off with is that what we conduct within our R&D wing is fundamental research. So basically, it's research that's not being conducted to achieve, you know, a certain product, but it's fundamental in the sense that it's exploring watchmaking in a very broad kind of way. And so the start of this was that we wanted to explore the constraints of space and energy within a wristwatch, which are, you know, the 2 main constraints that every watchmaker will find. And the idea was to see how these constraints could be overcome. And maybe if you remember, one of the first sort of projects we had where we tried different things was that we tried to harness the wind created by the movement of the balance wheel as an energy source for a certain indication, which worked, but it didn't, it didn't make it further than that. So it's now, somewhere in one of our safes, and maybe we'll be able to revisit that someday. But it was mostly trial and error, and you learn as you go along. And our ambition has always been, and still remains, to have a 180-day power reserve within a hand-wound mechanical movement. And the nano foudroyant is really the first milestone that we achieved where we could say, hey, this is something we can offer people because it really works. And to answer the question, why nano? It's not so much in terms of size, but more in terms of energy. So the foudroyant takes its energy directly from the escapement. So the energy required is measured on a nanoscale, hence the name. But then in turn, in using less energy, that means that we can get rid of an entire gear train, which you would usually need from a mainspring barrel or a secondary barrel. And with that, we can then end up with the nano foudroyant, flying tourbillon, and flyback chronograph in, as you mentioned, a 37.9 millimeter case. So we saw that in solving an energy problem, we can also in turn solve a space problem. So that was really the ambition that we had there, and I think the nano foudroyant is a fantastic result of our R&D research.
You spoke a bit about the vision and the DNA of the brand set out by Robert Greubel and Stephen Forsey. Mm-hmm. They built the brand on this philosophy of extreme mechanical expression, as you just explained wonderfully. Today, as CEO, how do you carry that philosophy into a new collection era? Also making the brand, I don't want to say accessible to new generations of collectors, but maybe visible?
Sure. I mean, to be honest, I think we're very lucky with what Robert and Stephen have built. You've been to our atelier, which I think, in terms of the infrastructure and know-how, it's really amazing. And every time I come to the office every day, I'm like, wow, this actually exists. And it's a very surreal amount of resources that are needed for only 200 timepieces a year. And then to carry it forward, I believe what's important is that the founding values, if you will, they're being held and defended by more than just one person. So we have quite a few team members who've been here for 15 years, 20 years, some even before, Greubel Forsey existed as a brand. And for all of them, there's no other way of doing things than the way that, we've been doing them for the past 20 years. So I think, if you see any kind of change or deviation, like the nano foudroyant, for example, people said, oh, that's incredible. You started making smaller timepieces now. And my answer was, yeah, but that project started like 10, 12 years ago. So it was always, in the pipeline. So we don't really want to diverge from anything that Robert and Stephen had intended for us to do. But of course, we want to build on it and continue to surprise and delight. And actually mostly making this very insane approach to watchmaking as sustainable as we can.
Talking of accessibility or visibility, you just mentioned that you've exhibited at La Réserve. I've encountered you at Basel World, SIHH. Why do you opt for La Réserve? Is it that there is no space at Watches and Wonders? You can't get the space you want there, or you simply don't want to be there because being at La Réserve has more benefits for you as a brand?
I mean, we did SIHH for 10 years or just over 10 years, which was good for what it was back then. But now more and more we see that it's important for us to have personal relationships with our collectors. And we like to, to sit down, not for 10 minutes for a quick photo shoot and then, run to the next meeting. We want to spend quality time, I suppose. And the La Réserve just happens to be fairly close to Palexpo, which makes it easy for people to access. And it's a different conversation when, you can show a very high value timepiece in, daylight or even on the terrace with some sunshine. And we want our collectors and friends to have a nice experience, basically. So while I would say Pelexpo is more, B2B, I guess, Watches and Wonders is still more B2B. It's not necessarily something that we're looking to extend. We do less official events than we used to, with stands and all that. Again, reason being is just that we want to spend quality time and not have to rush. So it's fairly simple.
You're going to less fairs maybe, but Geneva Watch Days this year you're partaking in.
Sure, but we're just in a hotel room, right? It's nothing special. But we like it. If someone's hungry, we can order them a sandwich, and we can just spend some time together.
How do they correlate to each other? This fair in April and this fair in September for you as a brand?
Well, I guess generally speaking, we meet more clients in April and we meet more press in September. I mean, put bluntly, that's basically it. But we've seen more and more clients also come to Geneva Watch Days than in the first years, which is great.
Would you care to share your thoughts on the new kid on the block or the revived Basel World, Basilia, or is it too fresh and you didn't form an opinion?
Oh, I saw something. I have to admit, I don't think I'm in a position to comment because I haven't taken the time to actually, read everything about it. From what I understood, it was more jewelry. Is that right? More jewelry or not necessarily?
I myself, I'm also, I didn't collect my thoughts. I actually know of it because you guys shared the awesome press company 289. So we have to pry a bit more and wait, but very interesting. And it shows, I'm actually, again, I see that glass half full. It shows the essence of FaceTime. I don't mean on an Apple phone, but people coming together. And that's what I love. People say that Geneva Watch is more relaxed, laid back, and Geneva Watch Week in April is more international, more collectors. It's maybe more formal. So I only salute it. So that's my 2 cents on it for now.
I mean, if I have a excuse to go to Basel to have the bratwurst, then I'm all for it. Yeah.
Totally so. You just mentioned that it's very important for you to meet your collectors as a brand, and your beautiful art pieces are at a level that takes a lot of personal attention and touch and a relationship. How has the collector profile changed in the last 3 or 4 years for you as a brand? And are you seeing new geographies becoming more important?
In terms of geographies, we what we're trying to do is have a very balanced distribution. So we don't we want to avoid having any single market or country be disproportionately more important than any other. So if there's should be changes, then we would probably still want to avoid them, and so that helps us remain quite flexible. So if there should be an issue in some part of the world, if we have a big part of our production tied up there, then we always we would always be a little bit at risk. So the approach is to have a nice balance so that we don't have any bad surprises. In terms of the collector profile, I don't think that we've seen significant change. I would say the sort of common denominator with our collectors is that they're people who appreciate developing their own taste. So, Greubel Forsey, you don't buy it for the brand name. You don't necessarily always buy it to show off, but you buy it because, you're far down the rabbit hole of watch collecting, and you have usually, a sincere appreciation for the craftsmanship and for the level at which we choose to work. So, that has always remained. Of course, there are younger collectors also interested now, but that's always going to be the case. We all unfortunately get older. I can feel it every day, and watch interest in watches is hopefully going to go down through the generations as it has. So I wouldn't say that is a significant change or deviation.
I see that you don't really do direct sales because the two monobrand stores are in New York with your partner Watch of Switzerland,
Sure.
Japan with Yoshida.
Sure.
Could we conclude those are historically the strongest markets?
Not necessarily, no. With Yoshida, it was a very nice opportunity to be able to work with them and to have a nice space in Ginza. And we do appreciate having partners because again we're a small team, so we're now 135 total. But in terms of the commercial side of the business, there's really just a few of us. And in Japan, there's just no way we would be able to satisfy our clients' needs. And honestly, even for the US and other countries, we do appreciate working within a retail distribution framework, and we don't have the ambition to do everything ourselves, basically. So, in terms of importance, we're around 25% for the US and South America, 25% Europe, 25 Middle East, and then 25 Southeast Asia and Japan. And then some years, one market is better than the other, and then it changes. But generally, we try to avoid huge fluctuations.
I see, if I counted correctly, only 24 doors worldwide. And if I counted the New York and Tokyo double, it's only 22. How important are these retailers for you, and are there any ambitions to go direct to consumer?
So I would say it's on a case-by-case basis. So we have some retailers who actually have zero allocation per year. But for us, it's important to have someone, in that region where our existing clients, they can go talk to, even if it's just, to change a strap or to send a timepiece for service. So for us, it's not about, we don't really measure results in terms of sales, but in terms of the service that can be offered. And it's really, I would say no two markets are alike. And it's something that works very well for us. And if you have an ambition to move to a direct sales model, I don't think so, because we see, that there's a certain risk involved in that. And again, we're comfortable where we are. We appreciate working with our partners, who honestly make our lives easier as well. And we like to focus on watchmaking. So if we should develop some direct sales, it would be in markets where we have zero representation. So we would definitely not want to interfere in what our partners have built. And should someone, actually in the past we've done this before, if an end client wanted to buy directly from us, we still gave the retailer margin to the retailer, more as a matter of respect than anything else. So we try to not be too greedy.
That's very elegant, and I say that as a retailer. We all salute you.
We wouldn't be here without our retail network, and it's important not to forget that. And we have our import-export specialist. She says, the people who you meet on your way up are the same people you're going to meet on your way down. So for us, it's important to have good relationships and to be respectful.
After the watch has been sold as a new watch,
mm-hmm.
and another collector is very much in dire need to obtain that one, leaves CPO. What's your stance on CPO? And
mm-hmm.
would you consider as a brand offering CPO on your own website and or via your own retail network, as we've slowly seen other artisanal horlogerie brands offering slowly more and more? And of course, the biggest example is the Rolex CPO program.
Of course. So the answer is yes. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background. I feel that, if I may say this, the part of our business that didn't receive as much focus and attention as it could have in the past was that commercial aspect of the business. So, we were making timepieces and we delivered them, and that's as far as it went, basically. So now as a first step, we tried to pay much closer attention to, where is it going, how long might it be in stock, who is it sold to, and to adjust our production in that respect as well. We have started last year buying back a certain number of timepieces. And this year, we're going to probably double the amount of timepieces we buy back. So the reason being, if someone is interested in, let's say, a double balancer, an end client, instead of, just building one, if we know that there's one available, that's in Singapore, for example, and the client wants to buy in the US, we would buy it back and then deliver to another retailer. So we want to have the healthiest market possible. And we feel that if we continue to do this and we're a little bit patient, I would say early next year we can roll out our CPO program as well, which we started to build, but we want to have the best possible situation to actually roll that out.
Will you incorporate your retailers into that program?
Yes, indeed.
Talking about balancing those global markets, the world has been on fire. We can state that the luxury industry cooling down is an understatement. How insulated is a brand at your level of exclusivity, insulated from such macro shifts? And how do you plan for uncertainty as a leader of a brand?
So we're, I want to say, thank God, almost completely insulated today. We're having a nice time. We're trying to handle our wait list as best as we can, even though it's a kind of a new situation for us, to be honest. So we're feeling confident. We don't see any pressure. Again, when we said a balanced distribution, if something should happen, we can easily reallocate certain timepieces elsewhere. And the way we want to make this sustainable is not get too ambitious too quickly when things are going great, because I feel like watchmaking is kind of cyclical. If it's a great year, everyone produces a lot of watches, and then it's a bad year, and we have to lay off a bunch of people. So for us, even if there should be a demand for a lot more, it doesn't actually mean that we have to meet that demand. And that way we can, we're comfortable where we're at, and it allows us to focus more and more on quality, which has always been, our top priority. But if it's, if we don't have that production constraints in terms of quantities, we get more time to focus on our passion. And in turn, we feel that we should be more insulated to fluctuations as well.
You mentioned a waiting list. On average, how long is the wait for a new consumer that wants to come into the Greubel Forsey world?
It depends on the model, I would say. The Handmade 2, of course, is a very limited production. So the next one will be for 2032 now. Some others are 2030. And some we try to do a little bit more. So it's, we try to do our best. And to be honest, with the handmade, it's starting to be a little bit of a concern because, not everyone's comfortable with a 5-6 year wait list. So we do try to increase production a little bit, but that would mean, hopefully instead of 3 pieces a year, we make 4. So it's still a very insignificant amount. And to be honest, in the past, it's not something we've experienced. So we're just kind of trying to figure it out as we go along.
Could we conclude that you've mentioned you have a small team, you're past 100. So again, that's relative to some atelier brands. Is your biggest bottleneck then people, watchmakers, engineers to grow?
One big bottleneck is hand finishing. So even though it is actually our largest department, that has always been a bottleneck for us. And then watchmakers, yeah. In terms of engineering, R&D, we're very well set up. So it's around 20 people only for R&D. So in terms of the hand finishing is always been a bit of an issue, and continues to be, because one main reason for that is we don't really have 2 different types of quality of hand finishing. So whether it be an entry level or, super high end, it's going to be the same dedication of execution, basically. Of course, less components, but that makes it supremely challenging for us. but it's a choice and I guess a matter of principle. So we'll see. But hand finishing is definitely a big one.
On a communication marketing side of things, do you think we've reached a plateau in the evolution and novelties of what's happening and the ability to differentiate yourself as a brand? Do you see that as a bottleneck?
I don't. Maybe I'm not the best person to ask because we've barely done any marketing whatsoever. Today that we have one person in charge of communications, but that's one person, right? And I write the press releases myself because it's kind of I like doing it, and it seems to be the most efficient way to do it today. So we can't really talk about marketing because we're in no position to comment. But for us, I guess, as long as our brand or others, as long as it's authentic and you have credibility, I don't think you need to differentiate yourself through marketing necessarily, as long as you do it through the product that you're offering. That's for us always been, where we really want to stand out. And then sometimes, it's appreciated, sometimes less. And sometimes it's underappreciated, and 5 years afterwards, everyone realizes how amazing, that specific watch was. So our focus isn't on marketing. It's, on making the best watches that we can and having great relationships with our clients and with our friends.
Luxury that whispers.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. Even though I pretend to do crazy stuff on Instagram sometimes, that's just for Instagram. That's not actually, that's not actually our lifestyle and our marketing.
Talking about lifestyle, you became CEO at a pivotal point for the brand. January this year, one of the founders, Stephen Forsey, stepped down from the company board. Is he still involved in the creative and technical direction? And if not, how much is Robert Greubel involved with the day-to-day?
Sure. So Stephen is no longer involved, and Robert is the president of the board. So not involved in day to day, but basically, I call him every day anyway because we love talking about projects and what we're doing. But the idea for our founders was that the brand could one day become independent of them as founders. So there's not 1,000 different ways of doing this, but the objective was for the team that we have internally to be able to take over all aspects of the business, and that's what we're still working on. What we're working on today.
Final question.
Sure.
Dear Michel, if you could point to one thing that you feel is misunderstood about Greubel Forsey, something you wish more people really grasped about what the atelier does, what would it be?
That's a good question. Hold on. Give me like a second to think here. I think, okay, so I might have an answer. I might change my answer in a few days, but off the top of my head, what we've seen a few times is that when we present a new movement, it's being judged within the context of what exists during a specific time. And with the handmade, for example, when we presented it, we had trouble explaining it to people. And we've heard, some people said that they were under the impression that every Swiss watch was made by hand. And, we realized that something, a project like this had not really existed in the past. Same thing with the Nano Foudroyant. We were quite worried actually if people would understand, if they would appreciate, how unparalleled something like this is. So it usually, it takes a while. Honestly, there are so many examples. The perpetual calendar that we launched in 2014. It took a few years for people to realize what an exceptional mechanical innovation it was. So the misunderstanding being that we're just a watch brand, making watches for a specific market is one that I hope to overcome one day, where people realize that, behind almost everything that we do, there's actually, there's a significant R&D investment. And for Robert and Stephen, and for all of us, we hope that each timepiece that we're able to present adds something of value to the industry and to the history of watchmaking. And, our we don't see our timepieces as products, but something that is meaningful and a form of artistic expression, if you will.
You actually gave me a brainwave because I always said one of the best is Greubel Forsey. You guys are too modest. I don't think you are, but you are. And I said you're friendly. And it is luxury that whispers, because you guys whisper where everybody doesn't use a bullhorn, but sound systems that we have at house parties. You just gave me a brainwave. I'm going to discuss this with Rob, my co-founder and co-host,
Okay, cool.
is to do a dedicated Greubel Forsey series where we run down a caliber in every episode and we do a deep dive into technicality.
Oh my God. Yeah, we're going to spend,
31 episodes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And more.
Well, I mean, it's 35 now, but it's going to be 40 soon.
So here you go. If you, dear listener, want 40 episodes with Michel and or his colleagues, send us a message. Michel, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I was truly honored. I've enjoyed every minute. Looking forward to seeing September.
Thank you, Alan. Looking forward to seeing you.
And you, dear listener, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. You can find all our previous episodes on our website, www.therealtime.show. You can find us on Instagram at therealtime.show. If you want to support the show, please subscribe, like, rate, and definitely share it with your friends. If you have any questions, feedback, and or criticism, please do send us a message. You can also DM us if you'd like to join the TRTS community on WhatsApp. You can find Scarlett on the gram at ScarlinTheshire. David, you can find at DAVAUCHER. Rob at ROBNUDDS. And me, just do at and my full name, Alome Joseph. If you prefer to send us an email, you can just add our first name to @therealtime.show, like our IG handle. Stay sane and keep on ticking.